Hi everybody, welcome to Indycar on Friday. My name's Gordon Ross. Today will be the last broadcast I do for about a week as I'm going off radar to go for a holiday. But this is an important broadcast for one main reason. And that main reason is, it was announced yesterday, after I've been trailing this for months, that David Mundells' office of the Secretary of State for Scotland is now going to be moved from its Edinburgh offices to the new Waverley House offices of the Civil Service. That's the British Civil Service, incidentally, in Edinburgh. So David Mundell will be now inhabiting an office with 5,000 civil servants at his command. This is apparently to make it all terribly efficient. However, anybody with a modicum of intelligence knows that you don't hire 5,000 civil servants and move the Secretary of State in with them into a brand new building unless you're planning to do a takeover of Scotland, basically, because that's what he's planning to do. Yesterday, Mrs May was visiting Brussels to explain how the Northern Ireland border problem was going to be resolved. Now, you may have noticed that nothing has been announced. Nobody's mentioned it. No progress has been made. The European Union hasn't mentioned it. The European Union is working on problems of its own with immigration at the moment. But the point of this is that a deadline has just passed. It just whizzed overhead and nobody noticed it. The deadline was yesterday. The British government had to have solved the problems of Ireland yesterday, or the EU was going to withdraw the transition period that they were offering of 21 months. So the transition period is no more. Unless the European Union says something different, as far as I'm aware, that deadline has gone past. And so we now know that we're heading for a cliff edge Brexit, whether it's an easy Brexit, a hard Brexit, or whatever Brexit it is. We're heading for a shock exit. We're not going to be easing out of the EU. Now, if you combine that with the knowledge that we now have that Mundell, after I've been trailing this for a long time, was setting up a new, what would you call it, a new viceregal colonial government in Scotland, in Edinburgh, in plain view, and disguising this as some kind of civil service hub to make things more efficient. I've trailed this for months, and I've been telling people for months that they need to get ready for a full power grab. I don't mean just one or two powers coming back from Europe. We're talking about emergency powers. The Tories, I am now almost certain, are planning for not just a hard Brexit, but a shock Brexit with no deal. A Brexit which will cause chaos and which will produce a huge nationwide emergency. And in that nationwide emergency, the British government will suspend everything, including, I suspect, devolution. It's a pretty bold thing to make a claim about, but I've suspected this for a long time, and there are many other people out there suspect the same thing, that the Tories have been preparing not just to grab back a few powers, but to grab back all the powers, and to actually shut out or shut down Holyrood completely by bringing the country into a state of emergency by causing a hard Brexit. Now, if I'm wrong, then I'll put up and shut up, and on the day Brexit happens, we'll find out for sure if I'm right or wrong. But my suspicion is, why would the British government spend millions and millions of pounds setting up a brand new civil service office in Edinburgh and hiring 5,000 new members of staff to run Scotland, when it already has a government which is running Scotland, it already has a parliament which is running Scotland, and it already has a civil service which is running Scotland? Why duplicate it? And the answer is simple, that they are going to put Holyrood out of business. That's the plan. That's becoming more obvious by the moment. I'm not sure how much longer we can hold off having a referendum before this becomes a real problem, because at any time, if the Tories decide, even before Brexit, that they can't get a deal, if they're told that, or they think that, or they decide that, they could pretty much introduce any kind of national emergency measures they felt like, in their words, to try to help smooth out the problem of this sharp, sudden Brexit. And that could include anything. That could include military law. It could include deploying troops on the streets to help with the logistical problems of dealing with the large numbers of people who would be held up at customs, the large numbers of things coming in and out of the country that would be held up at customs, the building of border posts across Northern Ireland. All of these things are something which the Tories can do if they decide to do so. If they decide to call a national emergency, because they blame Europe for not getting a deal, almost certain of it, and then they'll try and blame everybody who voted for Brexit for being in this situation, and then they will just decide to have a national emergency and suspend devolution across the entire UK. Now, if they do that, it means they can do what they want to Northern Ireland, they can do what they want to Wales, and of course they can do whatever they like to Britain. We're sitting here on our hands watching this happen in plain view. I mean, the Scotsman, which is basically the Tory newspaper of Scotland, is telling you that Mundells is moving into this new Viceregal Palace with these 5,000 underlings. They're making it very plain for you to see. And yet people haven't twigged that this isn't just a case of making the civil service fit for the 21st century. This is creating a parallel civil service alongside the Scottish Government and its existing civil service. It's a complete thing. This is a cuckoo nest of Scottish devolution. And it tells you one thing. Why would they have 5,000 completely new civil servants when we're already operating without them? What's the point of having 5,000 new ones unless you're going to use them? And why would you need 5,000 of them when we've already got a civil service in Edinburgh? Well, because you're going to put that civil service out to grass. You're going to make it irrelevant. That's the problem. I don't know whether the pieces I'm putting together are absolutely accurate. All I know is that big alarm bells are ringing in my head at the moment about what this move actually portends. What does it mean for the future? And bearing in mind that Brexit is now still no clearer, we're only a couple of months away from the end of the period that Britain has to actually decide what it's going to ask for. And after that, March 29th, we're out. We're out hard on our arses, or we've got this transition period where we can come in a little bit more gently. Now, Europe hasn't said anything about the transition period, but what we do know is that nothing's been decided. Theresa May hasn't said anything to anybody that means anything about what's happening in Ireland. The DUP is, in fact, probably going to be the catalyst for breaking up the whole of the United Kingdom by insisting that Northern Ireland is as isolated from Europe as the rest of the UK, when it plainly shares a land border with the rest of the island of Ireland, and when it plainly already have a border across it. You can't solve that problem. So the Tories are either going to seize power and force a border across Ireland, or they're going to give up and relinquish Ireland once and for all and give it back to the Republic. Now, I don't know which one of those you think is the most likely. Frankly, I would probably go for the former. The Tories are much more likely to try and impose direct rule, even more with even more of an iron grip than they do now. Problems for Scotland are that the politicians here are still waiting for some clear indication of how bad Brexit to be before call referendum. I have a feeling that the time for calling the referendum is going to come very suddenly. It's going to have to be this autumn. I just can't see it rumbling on after Christmas. If it does, I think it'll be too late. So the message today is beware of the cuckoo in the nest. Mundells is moving into his new nest. He's got his 5,000 minions there. He's ready to take charge of Scotland whenever Theresa May gives him the go-ahead to seize power. And I'm pretty certain that's what he's aiming to do. They don't build a huge civil service with 5,000 people in it for no reason. And it isn't just simply to make it more efficient. It's already running perfectly efficiently under the SNP. Why do we need a Tory and 5,000 of his friends to make it run any better? Think about it. Anyway, I'm off on holiday. If any of you needs to contact me, you can always send me a text or a message on Facebook. I will still be taking messages, I just won't be producing any programs. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.